to the garden. This little wildflower is known as heel-all, or self-heal. It was historically used for all sorts of ailments, as a poultice for wounds. It's been brewed into a drink by drying the leaves and then powdering them down and mixing them with water. So I'm going to harvest a few leaves today to try that. These are edible, and I think they look a little bit like spinach. They can be ovate, like an egg, and some of them come to a little bit of a point. Some of the leaves can look a lot like spinach, like this one back here. That's a really nice, large, beautiful leaf. Because this has been cut back a few different times, this one's actually really, really low. But they can grow quite tall. I have an example here. We can see the roots. But this particular plant is a little bit over a foot tall. It might even be closer to 2 feet. And this is already flowered. And the pods, which come in these really compact kind of cones, have dried and turned brown. So there should be a bunch of seeds in there. I want to try and grow this from seed. So let's see how many seeds we get here. I'm going to sow these out in my garden just below the surface. If a stem falls over and comes in contact with the soil, it can set out roots, just like taking a cutting from your garden. And these are actually in the mint family. So the stems are square, very typical of mint, and the flowers are tubular, and they remind me of like a rosemary or a sage. So the flowers have a kind of a hollow tube. The top petal is kind of a dark purple hood, and the bottom petal has 3 kind of lobes. You can see those little wings like little ears, and it's usually white instead of that dark purple, but it can have a little color to it, and you can see it has that fuzzy kind of a toothed texture to it. The leaves are fairly smooth on the edges, but if you look closely, they do actually have a couple of little teeth here and here. The lower leaves can be a little bit wavy, and depending on how much light they're given, they can look a little different. Some might be fairly large, like this one here. This is one of the largest leaves I've ever seen. But as they go higher up, they get thinner and pointier, and they tend to look a bit more like this without much of a stem on them. They're always going to have one pair of leaves right below that flower, and they grow oppositely on the stem. So every time you get a leaf on the left, there's going to be one just opposite on the other side. So we can see that again down here. And you can see this shape of leaf is a little bit different, but these are all from the same plant. So they can be ovate, kind of like an egg shape like this one, or a little bit more pointed, lanceolate shape. I think I'm going to do a taste test right now. They do look a lot like spinach or common plantain. Here's a leaf of a common plantain, but we can see the veins are different. On the heel-all over here, you can see they have a central vein and little veins coming off. On the common plantain, the veins come from down here and run all the way along the leaf. And actually both of these are edible. So let's do a little taste test and compare common plantain with heel-all. It's a slightly fuzzy texture, so that might be a little weird. I'm not a huge fan of fuzzy greens, and they are in the mint family, but they shouldn't have any pungent sort of minty flavor. But they do still have a few disinfecting qualities, which is why it's used as a medicine. So let's give this a little taste. It can be eaten raw or cooked. So far the flavor is nice and mild. This would go great in a salad. Let's try a little bit more. And you can eat the stem, the leaves. I've done a taste test of the flowers. Yeah, the fuzziness isn't that bad. It's not as bad as a radish. Radish greens are really fuzzy. It's very good. It's mild. It's not bitter at all. They flower about midsummer, and usually greens get fairly bitter after they flower, but these are actually pretty nice. So let's compare that with a common plantain. And this is a nice young leaf. So common plantain usually get really fibrous. So if they're older, you can strip those down. Just peel them off. Kind of like that. So let's try that. Already the flavor is different, more intense, more bitter. So the heel-all really has a lovely flavor. Now that we know what the plant looks like, I can really spot them all over the place. Most of these little plants down here are heel-all or self-heal. So I'm going to start collecting these. I'm going to dry a few of these out. We're going to make a powdered drink, which should be really interesting. Got to give them a rinse because they're so low growing. They get a lot of splashback from sand and stuff. But once I'm done harvesting a few of these leaves, I think I'm actually going to transplant these out into the garden. We'll get a little bit more sun. They certainly won't be trampled on so much. And hopefully we'll have a nice new wild edible that comes back year after year. I'm just going to collect all of them that I can find that are right on the trail. I'd rather have this moss. This can handle a light tread, but it only pops up where there's a little bit of sunlight. Just underneath the plants, it's just bare dirt. You don't have to dig very deep, just about an inch or two. Some of our self-heal plants here are covered in these little blue aphids. They're kind of a bluish gray. It's really interesting. I am going to rinse these off just so our little transplants have the best chance of survival. Just a quick rinse is all it took. Aphids are soft-bodied insects, so they just wash right off. So I'm just going to plug them around here. So I'm going to let these leaves dry for as long as it takes till I can powder them down. Then we'll make a nice cold beverage. So these are so brittle, we'll be able to just powder them down. That'll increase that surface area and hopefully make a stronger flavor. I'm really not sure what to expect here. I mean, it's kind of like powdering down spinach or something. This has been sitting for about a half an hour, and we've extracted some beautiful color. So let's see what this tastes like. Wow. It's like iced tea. That is phenomenal. Oh my gosh. I didn't expect it to taste so much like tea. That's amazing. I am kind of straining it through my teeth, so I think it would be a good idea to filter this out. But this is surprisingly delicious. So next year I'm definitely going to do a really large batch. We might sweeten it with some sugar, maybe a little bit of lemon for flavor. Now as far as the plants in the garden go, because they're native to Minnesota, I think they'll be fine over winter. I'm just going to insulate them very lightly with a few dried leaves and they should survive. So whether you're growing it for a beverage, as an edible green, or just for the beautiful flowers, I hope you keep an eye out for Heal-All or Self-Heal. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.